on with it, right? Happy, jolly, dancing. So it almost so she's using the classic racist talking points by dehumanizing this person and then just painting Kamala Harris as a caricature. And
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, making her less than what she is. That's what I'm going to take from it. I haven't heard about this particular issue, but this is classic racist talking points. To portray the black man and the black woman as caricatures first.
Yep.
To dehumanize them, to make them less important.
Absolutely. And we're not going to have it because we see through it. And it really speaks to much deeper resentment, I believe, for someone who has achieved as much as Kamala Harris. She has broken records, but their campaign is not capitalizing off of that. She has broken a record, and I think it's worthy of us taking note of it, that she's the first woman of color, but black woman, to have been nominated by a major political party to run as vice president of the United States.
Right.
And I believe heads are exploding because of that fact. And if that means that I have to tear her down with petty discussions about her mannerisms and her dancing and her speech in colloquial ways, then that's what I'll do, because she writes for the Wall Street Journal. It is a highly respected newspaper for some. I just read it just to hear the other side, but I don't respect it. Pastor Davis, did you want to weigh in on that?
I just agree with Minister Rodriguez. I think it's a caricature, and I think it's intentional. I think it's a dog whistle thing.
Yes.
She knows what she's doing. She's not ignorant. So when she talks about the dancing and the laughing, and they call like it was inappropriate. She lacks seriousness. I think one term was that she's not sober minded. I read whatever I was reading about it. So I was glad to see people, come to Kamala Harris's defense and come at Peggy Noonan. But at the end of the day, the damage is done. It's what black folk have to deal with. This that racist, like you said, racist 101 type of approach.
Yeah.
Marginalize and dehumanize you and make you something less than, because Kamala Harris's pedigree speaks for itself.
Absolutely.
And we saw this before. With Barack Obama, fist bumping with his wife Michelle, and it's right out of the classic conservative media playbook.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think we have to speak out about it when we notice it. And I'm not saying that everybody. I'm a news what is the word, sponge. I just if I'm up late, I'm not just doing frivolous things. I'm looking at what's happening, because things are always happening late, and I just get this stuff. And but I and when I say I get it, I don't mean I understand it, but I do understand it. I do understand where they're coming from when they are constantly criticizing us. And
the only one point I want to say is that the people coming at Peggy Noonan,
but I don't
they say
respect
things
it.
like she's tone deaf, right? They say that's the term that they use. She's tone deaf. Well, she's not being tone deaf. This is not purposeful. So don't give her leeway. Don't give her any out. That is
absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up, because when it's someone that they want to protect, they become tone deaf.
Yes.
She knows exactly what she's doing. She pointed out the things to get those who are a part of her camp to criticize not only Kamala Harris, but every black person who expresses him or herself in the way that we do. I feel like I'm speaking loudly now, but in the black church, we preach
loudly, yeah.
Right? But in white churches, that's not the same. How many of you have watched Dr. Charles Stanley for years? He has this even tone. They don't have the same type of fire. Now, I'm not doing this as a criticism. I'm showing the difference. And if she really wanted to be genuine about her criticism, she wouldn't have opened her mouth. She would have understood that the way Kamala's maybe perhaps just being who Kamala is, because none of us know her personally, but that may be who she is, first of all. But it's also a part of her culture, and it is to be lauded, not criticized. So,
look, no matter what, I mean, we could have not, we didn't get behind her when she ran for president, but black people are getting behind her now. So she
Yeah.
loves us, and and when you come for her and you come for her in that way, we're gonna we
We're
she's
gonna clap back.
that's it. Bottom line, point blank, period. And she's attacking things that come directly out of our culture, how we
Absolutely.
express ourselves. So it could have been anyone. It could have been anyone. It could have been Michelle Obama. It could have been anyone. It could have been Oprah Winfrey. It doesn't matter. You're attacking something that comes directly out of our culture and our way and our traditional way of doing things. So
Yeah.
we're gonna shut it down quickly.
Yeah. Quickly, exactly. And I'm appreciating the fact that not knowing about it, y'all jump right on in. Pastor, you may have known about it, but you didn't miss a beat, Minister Rodriguez. Look, all right. So let me address the Walter Wallace Jr. Murder. I don't mince words. I'm not calling it an accident. I don't, it's going to be called what it is. Walter Wallace Jr., 27-year-old man with some type of clinical mental illness. His family called 911 for assistance because he was becoming violent. And they felt they could not address it properly themselves. Before I get to the murder, let me say parenthetically, if there's someone in your home who is experiencing an emotional break, we do what we can initially until the situation moves to a more dangerous, takes a dangerous turn for either of us, whomever is involved. And we feel that we should be able to call for assistance. So 911 goes directly to the EMS, the fire department, and the police department. Typically, the EMS will arrive with police. In this case, in the video that I saw, and it was a short clip, and I don't know if there's one that has another view, I did not see the ambulance. I didn't see the EMS as a part of this call. And it could just be from where the people started recording. I don't know. I was not there. What I saw is highly disturbing. It was in the middle of the day in West Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And people were out in the community because it was the middle of the day. And apparently the family had called. The young man had walked out of the house, had a knife. If you see the video, I started to play the clip, but for me, it's still too raw. It's very painful to watch as his mother runs behind him to try to get him to calm down and to give her the knife. He only had a knife. There are two officers with guns drawn. He comes around the car after mom tries to get him to give her the knife. But mom is begging the cops, don't hurt him. We called you for help. He's having a mental break. She was trying to tell them, trying to discuss with the cops what's going on. Because when they arrive, don't they ask what's the situation? Even though they've been called out already, they still want to know what the situation is. And so they were not listening. So her son, he runs in front of the cars. The officers are in the street by now, but they turn around and he's about 10 feet away. That's my understanding. He's 10 feet away from them. You cannot stab someone from 10 feet away. As soon as he turns around, faces them, bullets just start to go off. You can count them. And I understand he was shot 10 times.
Yeah.
But he's dead tonight. He was dead yesterday afternoon. And it's just heartbreaking. And then I watched to the end of the little clip I saw, and the mother was like, you didn't have to shoot. The community comes out. You didn't have to shoot him. And the mom does what any mother would do. She starts to fight at the cops. But I noticed something about her. This is my own analysis of her actions. She was fighting in defense of her son, but guess what she wasn't trying to do? She wasn't trying to kill the cops. I believe she was hopeful that if she can get the cops away from her son, she can get down there and perhaps save him. But there was no hatred in her heart towards the men who had shot her son, but just protectionism as a mother. Now, that's me as a mother saying that, definitely. But that's what I witnessed. But I saw in these cops, for me, two frightened men, frightened of someone with a knife. To my knowledge, they have a billy club, they have handcuffs, they have mace, and they have a stun gun. None of those were a part of their arsenal that they decided to use. They immediately thought of their guns. And I believe it is very racist because this does not happen when they encounter emotionally disturbed white people. I have seen people who are not emotionally disturbed and they're white. And I've seen them beat cops up. I've seen them run cops around in circles. I've seen an old lady get out of her car and curse them out, drive off when they tell them to, when they told her to stop. I've seen them take officers' guns and they are alive and in jail. But it's something when these cops who are either just racist or have this white frailty that makes them pull not guns out on Black men in particular, but Black women as well, but Black men in particular, and shoot to kill. And shoot to kill. And that is what happened to Walter Wallace. I don't care how the mayor spins it or the chief of police. And their statements up until about 2 hours ago had not been sufficient for what that community deserves. The fact that the people were fighting and throwing things at the cops, what do you expect when you're calling on a vulnerable call in true need of help, not because someone is trying to kill you, but because your child who has documented mental illness is acting otherwise and I cannot control his actions. I'm calling you for help, but you come out and kill my child. What do you expect the community to do? At what point do Black men and women start to fight back and it be okay? Because guess what? By not fighting back, we're still getting killed. So I'm not mad at anyone who fought back. I am not mad at anyone who fought back. To be sure, some were arrested. They had to know that that would be the result. And they might say if they were interviewed, I'd do it again because enough is enough. And how many have to die? How many names do we have to add to our list?
Right.
We're not even finished with mourning with the family of Daniel Prude. We're not even finished mourning with the family of George Floyd and mourning what happened to Jacob Blake. I'm not even finished mourning for Eric Garner and his family. You know, Eleanor Bumper.
They don't give us time to mourn.
Hasn't that been historic, Minister Rodriguez? Have we ever been able to mourn all of the atrocities they visit upon us in this country?
No, not at all.
Not at all. And so I'm just really upset, but let me pause and let you all get on in there and speak about what you might want to as Black men. Talk about it.
First, I know it's starting to become cliche-ish, but this need to address mental health in our communities.
Yes,
it's cliche-ish, but you know it's starting to become cliche-ish. Everybody seems to be talking about it, but really nobody is doing anything about it, right? And when we start talking about Black agendas, we have to talk about racism as a contributor.
Mm-hmm.
A major contributor to mental health, right? So this is something that has to go on our Black agenda, what contract with Black America, whatever you want to talk about. Mental health and racism have to be that we have to make that type of connection.
Right.
Number one. And we know, I mean, this is a perfect storm, right? We got president in the White House, racist president in the White House. We got this coronavirus. We got this economy that's in the toilet, right? And we have people who have dealt with mental health issues. And so all of this in the climate is exacerbating this. We've known that this all has been here. I mean, even when we start talking about the violence that's going on in our communities, we've known that these things have been here. But when you have a triple threat like this, when you have this perfect storm like this, all of this stuff is now exacerbated and emotions are heightened. So there's these psychic tears that are taking place and it's not being addressed. I mean, I work for a nonprofit and we try to address it, but it's really in a generalized way. We're not addressing it I mean, it's starting to come around now where we're talking about equity in schools, and we are trying to address anti-racism and stuff like that, but it's mild. We talking about institutions that have been racist for a very long time. So trying to address mental health in this way, and also getting people the help that they need to address their mental health there's really a gap. Gap there in addressing mental health. So that's what I want to say about that first.
Okay. Pastor?
Yeah, well, I think Minister Rodriguez makes the excellent point about that's the first thing I was thinking about, the mental health issue, and the fact that there's a racism associated with that we can't get the kind of help that we need because we're not really looked at as human. So can't get the proper diagnosis and the proper treatment, the proper response to a mental health episode. Like, it doesn't happen for us. You're humanized. But also, you had mentioned about the response, right? And so now, in terms of the rallying and the protesting, 30 cops got hurt. I think one cop got hit by a truck or something like that. And
yes, an older cop, I think. Yeah.
Cop. And so I think even some months ago, when some cops got shot, I think in a parked car, people are retaliating. They're tired. They're angry.
Yeah.
And we talk about a perfect storm, that all of these things converge and people are tired. And so now they're going to be fighting back, and cops' lives are really going to be in jeopardy. And people have been talking about a race war. And sometimes when I hear those things, I laugh. We're not going to have a race war. But then you look at it like, hey, this is a problem. Like, people are really going to start fighting back. And so when I see 30 police officers injured and pretty seriously, and of course, like I said, with the person with getting hit by the truck, the older cop, that's alarming. And I think you're going to start seeing more of that. And that's, when I saw that video, it was disturbing. Like, and it gets to, sometimes you get numb to these things, but it's still disturbing. It's like, man, this was unnecessary.
Right.
People are looking at this, and it will make you infuriated. And so now you've got a perfect storm with people dealing with mental health, all of us in some form.
Yes.
Bad. We got a madman in the White House. You're killing us in the street. People are going to start really taking the lives of police officers, and that's inevitable.
Yeah, and it's all, like you said, it's alarming. I remember last year, I got a couple of comments that we'll get to in a couple of minutes. Keep putting them in there. We're going to address them. I remember last year, was it last summer, when they were here in New York, when they were literally dumping water and throwing water on officers. Yeah. I mean, we weren't really having, it wasn't an unusual summer here in New York. To me, it was just, they were basically just doing their job. I'm saying there was not an incident in 2019 that we can point to, like a George Floyd or an Ahmaud Arbery or any of the ones more recent from this year. But these were just so we have to understand, even in our community, that there are just some people who are never going to do right, right? There are some people who are never going to do right. what I believe happened in West Philadelphia was just the everybody getting to the point, the
Yes.
everybody's, right?
Yes.
Saying enough is enough. They watched it. They heard the pleas of this mother. I will never get her voice out of my head. I don't have to keep listening to the video to feel this connection to her. Now, what I'm hoping doesn't happen is that they don't convince her to come out and call for calm, she nor the dad. Let law enforcement actually do their job.
Yeah.
Let them take back the community without harming more of us in the community. Part of the unaddressed mental illness that we have is that the families are always called to calm the situation down.
Yeah.
And they should be allowed to process the loss, but they're never able to, because the government, the police look to them to calm the community down. And what's happening in the community, in my assessment, and you can tell me if you feel differently, is that the community is saying, we stand with you, family, but this is bigger than what has happened to your loved one. Because as surely as it was your loved one today, tomorrow will be mine. And so we respect you, but we must do this. And that's why I believe we saw the protests for the entire summer during COVID, this part of this perfect storm that we are dealing with now. And so let me say this. And then I'll try to bring these comments in. As an activist, and Pastor Davis up here in Clark City, you have been a partner in activism with me. We're not just pulpit people. I'm not going to define you all, but I'm a Black liberation theologian, and all things that harm the Black community, I'm going to be out front about.
Yeah.
And I'm not one of those people who soft pedals my words. I try not to use profanity. I definitely try to not do that. But I'm not going to have anyone be confused as to where I stand, because I'm not just standing for Frank. I'm not just standing for Jason. I'm standing for Yoram. I'm standing for Anthony. I'm standing for your children, and for every Black person. And so this is serious. But I do want people to understand that the way activism works is that we have to, especially as faithful activists, we have to be led by the Holy Spirit. All y'all got to do is go to the Bible and you will see different ones of the prophets having to just go and do what they had to do. I often align myself with Jeremiah because he never have any good news for the people. He just didn't have that good news. And I feel like I am constantly talking about repentance and stuff like that, and people don't want to hear it. So I don't curry favor with folks, but I'm not trying to either. I'm trying to do what I believe the Lord has called me to do. And that's why the message is not that itching ear. Preach me lies and soft words. I can't do that. That's not who I'm made to be. But I do ask those who don't understand the calling that we have to pray for us, because this is not easy. It costs us a lot. I've said on this show, and I say it because I want people to know, those who are keeping me under surveillance, to know that I know they are. I know they are, so while you're watching me, I'm watching you too. And that's just all I can say about that. I don't want to get too deeply into that. But let me bring in these comments, guys. And then, I hope you sort of writing it down so that I won't make you miss something that you really want to share. Okay. My sister's here, Juanita. She says, where's the plan? She put that up while you were talking, Minister Rodriguez. Where's the plan? Where's the agenda? We need one. The dust isn't settling. We're not anesthetized, are we? Houston, we have a problem. It's growing. Are we ready to respond? Well, let me just say this before you two respond. The response has to be a united response, right? But there has to be trust in the leadership of that response by the people. If you're not the one who's going to lead the fight, you have to decide whether or not you're going to be a passive participant or an active participant. And in either event, you have to support whatever that response is, and I think that people aren't always willing to support whatever the response is. And obviously, and let me say this very clearly, we're not talking about a violent response. All I said about the brothers and sisters who got arrested down in Philly is that I understand. I understand. They've gotten to the point where they're killing us anyway. We may as well fight back. And we have to understand that and not say, oh, they shouldn't do that. They shouldn't do that. Brothers, jump in, please.
No, I'm gonna say this to you, and I'm jumping out on a limb. A nonviolent response is only one approach.
That's right.
It's not necessarily the only approach. It's just one approach. I mean,
right.
And the nonviolent approach is not an approach that is the only approach that Black people have taken. I mean, we look at the civil rights movement. We honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. for his nonviolent approach. It did get a lot of things done. We could say that, right? But it's not the only approach. It's not the only philosophy within the Black community. So, I'm not gonna say that someone who espouses self-defense. I'm not gonna just call it wanton violence. I'm gonna call it self-defense. If they're defending themselves, I'm not gonna say that that's the wrong approach to take, or applaud someone for defending themselves. I'm not gonna put them down for that, or turn a back and say we shouldn't do that, or they shouldn't do that. It's multiple approaches that we can take, and I'm not gonna say any one of them are wrong.
Yeah.
Excellent. Go on, Pastor. Go on.
I think the question about where's the agenda or where's the plan, that's what we've been asking ourselves for a long time. And so Minister Rodriguez and I had a conversation. This is a good part to segue into Ice Cube, like, and some of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I've often said to Yoram, I said, listen, where are the think tanks in our community to help formulate agenda, right? This is a think tank, what we're doing right now. We're trying to perpetuate people of thought, right? Engaged social activism, right? And
right.
But the problem is that it's not really happening on a level that it needs to happen. And so what happens is people like Ice Cube are like, hey, I need to get in here because there's no one else really doing it, right?
Right.
And when he begins to be proactive and do it, whether we like it or not, whether his idea should be vetted or not, we can argue those points, right? But the reality is no one is really proactively developing an agenda that can be pushed. Whereas other communities, they do that actively and intentionally. So in other words, we get shot all the time in the street, and we don't seem to have a galvanized collective response. We just, we react, right?
Right.
And it's the same thing. It's a cycle, and we're the only community that this could happen where we're not immediately organized and putting together an agenda to stop this.
Right.
Just happens over and over and over again. We're hoping that somebody will just be different. Like that hasn't happened.
Right.
So you have to put something together, and then when somebody does put something together, we're quick to criticize them. And I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve criticism. I'm saying that, and I said to Yoram, I said I appreciate at least what is the intention of the motivation behind it, right? And used to be a time in our community where we had thinkers and different platforms and media and in written spaces where you could write articles and news, and you can get people to think. Today, man, we don't have that. And we don't. We need more of it and the pulpits used to be that way, right? The church used to be that space where you could get these things out there to the masses. And the moment we stopped doing these things, I don't know if we thought we arrived. I have no idea. I'm just saying we're not that voice.
Right.
Go on. To add on to that, how can I flesh this out? First, when you look at grassroots movements, right? A lot of times, situations like let's say Ferguson, for example, right? It was a grassroots movement. A lot of people on the ground were not media savvy, but they were getting busy. They were getting
Right.
big. They were making headway, and they were bringing attention to the situation. Now you have people who came in who were more media savvy, right? Who had their own agenda, and now they began to start talking about and dealing with issues that wasn't what Ferguson was all about. So now the whole grassroots movement was uprooted, and now other people with other agendas started getting the resources and taking it from the grassroots movement. And you had these nonprofit groups getting money and stuff like that. So that's one. So you have people who are more media savvy, who really have their own agenda. They come in, they kind of take the steam out of the movement. And then I'm gonna call it out like it is. A lot of times we gotta beware of the white liberal. The white
absolutely
their own agenda and send certain people into the community to calm us down, have us think about things and think about things. And when we are really clear about why we going buck wild in the first place, we really clear about it, and we're making it clear by our actions. It's just not a haphazard response. We are responding to something that we've been dealing with for centuries. Let's just call it what it is.
Right.
I think that is part of the issue of what we see when we talk about the response.
Absolutely.
We definitely have to be careful of who we allow to come in and speak for us when these situations happen. We definitely got to know what their pedigree is, what they've been doing, how they've been handling certain situations, because they come to really disarm the fire and demilitarize the situation.
I am so happy you said that, because I'm telling you, I say this kind of stuff all the time. My husband and I, we're having a debate about defund the police. I don't want to get off into that too much, right? So I said to him, and I might have said on one of our shows, Pastor Davis, I don't know, I've been talking so much this summer, but but I don't agree with the whole defund the police term, right? It is a term of division. It is a term of distraction. And that is why you got this man who's trying to become the president again, going around the country, trying to make us look like boogeymen who, the bad ones. They just want to get rid of your cops. Well, first of all, you guys, don't you go to Westchester County? Every time we go, look, they could have a light out. Where are the cops? Overseeing the work of the light, the people who fix the lights.
Absolutely.
You go to Pelham over to BJ's. Where the cops? Sitting in front of BJ's. Nothing is happening at BJ's. People just buying their food. We were up in Scarsdale yesterday, and we were by, I can't remember what the eatery was. It was an eatery. But where were the cops? In front of the eatery, chilling. That's the people. They don't have the issues that we have down here in New York City. And so they come from upstate resenting having to deal with us in the first place, right? And so I shared with my husband yesterday, I said, now see, I agree with this. Colin Kaepernick said, we need to abolish. It ain't nothing to say, we need to abolish. He said, F reform, we need to abolish. Now I said, I prefer the word abolish to defund, because all people are thinking about is just taking, it's really optics. It's really how people see it. Now I see several comments over here about mental health issues. Let me tell you, and I've told my kids this, if I have a mental break, somebody better, you got permission this one time. If you think and believe that I'm having a mental break, you can knock me out with a punch. I'll take care of it later with you, but do not call 911. Now, we're all intelligent people. We're very educated on this thing, but I know if I call 911, it could mean the life of me or my family. Try to diffuse it. And I also say that we need to have a listing of mental health professionals who are people of color, preferably Black and Latino. And I mean that. I mean that because we have shared experiences, at least in large cities like New York. But get those lists together, give it to your family. In fact, magnet it, put it on the refrigerator. This is serious. And like you said earlier, you both said, we are dealing with unaddressed mental illness. Once COVID is over and we have a sense of normalcy, we're going to all need a psychologist couch. We are all going to need a level of therapy. And that is what we have to stay on top of. Let me say this. Last week, right? So you know that the governor has told every law enforcement locality to turn in a police reform report to him by next April. So they're all doing it. So New York, they're doing it too. So last week I went to one of the town halls that they're having throughout the city. The mayor has appointed the Robin Hood Foundation, which is led by Wes Moore, who's a Black man. The Federation of Protestant Welfare Agencies, which is led by Jennifer Jones Austin, whose father used to pastor Bethany Baptist Church out in Brooklyn, and by the New York Urban League, whose president is Arva Rice. 3 Blacks, right? Leading Blacks. Gets back to your thing about your statement about the grassroots organization. So I get there, right? And I'm not ashamed to tell it because it was already televised. And I'm in a room full of clergy and other community leaders. And this one Latina clergy woman, she jumps up and she says, well, we support the blue. We support the blue. Now, remind you, the name of the town hall was Police Reform and Reinvention. We support the blue, and we have to go back and tell all of our congregants to support the blue because that's what we're doing. Most people don't know that their ministers are going to these high-level meetings and not representing the needs on the ground, like her and several others. So you know that there's this thing called the Citizens Police Academy. I've been through it, but they're here talking about, oh, I need a refresher. These are your clergy leaders. I'm talking about well-known pastors talking about, I haven't gone through that training in a while. Meanwhile, the NYPD is just announcing their next class, but they want to go back through the Citizens Police Academy again. They're wasting precious time. They're not out there talking about the reform that needs to happen. So, of course, your girl, your big mouth girl here gets up and says, look, we're not here for that. I pointed to the name of the town hall. We're here for police reform and reinvention because the NYPD has some serious problems, and that is why they've convened us. How dare you come up there and be cheerleaders? I said, most of us are stakeholders that understand that we have to work with the police department. So we're not here because we hate them. We're here because we are demanding change from them. Mm-hmm. Most aren't willing to do that for fear of repercussions. I'm not. I'm just not that person. I will speak truth to power, and power can respond as it will. But we have to force the change. And the change really does happen at our level. Yeah. But if we're not invited to the tables, Pastor Davis and Minister Rodriguez, then it's always the big ones. And that's what I said to Arva Rice. I told her about when we started the prayer walks back in 2013, I believe, because of the 2 young people who got shot over in Section 5. I said, Miss Rice, you didn't even know that, right? And I said, that's why it's important to have people other than the usual suspects or the usual people that you go to at the table of reform, because we're going to get the same thing that we've been getting if we're never invited in to the table when they're supposedly making all these changes. That's the plan, Sister Juanita. We have to be a part of the people, of the conversations that are happening that will force the change. And once we do have that a plan, we can't be ready to criticize how much that whiteness has given us that we've never asked a second question about. Not one question, actually. How much of what we do every day that comes out of white supremacy, even, that we never question. We just say, okay, which direction? Left, right, forward, backwards? But when is somebody, and we are going to segue, when is someone like Ice Cube who puts together a contract for Black America? We have all kind of problems. We have all kind of problems. But don't dare let him go to both Joe Biden and Donald Trump and be heard by Donald Trump, because then he's a villain. We take our eyes off the true villain and then put our eyes on Ice Cube. And I think that's a good place for you to start, Minister Rodriguez, because I'm already 10 minutes into that part of the discussion. Won't you, and you both can just go back and forth. I'm going to listen.
No. I mean, all of this is good, and all of it can come full circle and could be tied in together. What I want to say first, I want to say about our police. Malcolm said it best, right? When to your point about the police in Westchester, right? He said, we got all these cops, and the cops must be in cahoots with the criminals, right? If we got all these cops and still have crime, they must be in cahoots with the criminals.
Okay.
Why do we have so many police? Like, and I think that when we talk about police reform, we have to talk about the profitability of policing.
Yes.
The money that's made from police. Just from writing tickets, arresting young people for just jaywalking.
Right.
Stuff like that. So I think those are the things. I think those are things that we have to talk about. We have to address. Because I mean, the cops make a lot of money for the city.
They do
a lot of money for the city, and I think these are things that have to be put. Again, we talking about plans. We talking about agenda. These are things we talking about. Mental health has to be a part of the agenda. The profitability of police, how they make money off of our backs in our communities. When a lot of us in our communities, we need our cars. Our cars get towed. They exorbitant prices and stuff like that. People who have to work 20 and 30 miles away just to make a decent living. And we see how cops take advantage of those situations and give out tickets. I mean, all of these things can be talked about, right? And so even okay, so with Ice Cube, when I read what he said, I was like, there's no lie in that. There is no lie in what he said. I mean, we definitely got to think outside the box. And I realized that in a lot of the interviews that he went on, even Roland Martin, who at times I applaud. I watched the Roland Martin interview, and I was really upset at the way Roland Martin handled the interview. He really talked down to Ice Cube. He really addressed Ice Cube in a condescending way, and brought on Alyssa Garza, I think her name is. I think she's one of the leaders of the
co-founders, Black Lives Matter.
Of the Black Lives Matter, and she spoke to him condescendingly too. She basically told him that she's been in this game for 20 years, and that he need to get in line. And he's like, wait, hold on. I don't got to get in line for nobody. And you know what? Honestly, he does not, because I mean, if you do the math, I mean, so let's talk about activism, right? And we think that activism is only this. I'm out here marching. I'm going to get out here and march. I'm going to get out. I got my platform. I'm getting on my bully pulpit, and I'm going to. Ice Cube has used his musical talents as a form of activism, and he has been doing that for over 30 years. So it's not like he does not have a right. I mean, if you get deep, if you go back, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you have listened to Ice Cube's music. I mean, if you go back and you refamiliarize yourself with some of the content of his music, straight up and down, he was against police. He spoke out against police brutality, spoke out about a lot of things that was going on in our communities. He spoke out on his music, and he spoke out very loudly about it. So to say that this man does not have a right to speak for Black people is absurd. It's absurd. Now, he may not be politically savvy. His timing may not have been right. So we can kind of like bring him in on that. for those who are, more politically savvy, to say, come here, brother, let me take you under our wing. Let us, get you a little more clear on certain things. But to just dismiss him or speak to him condescendingly, I mean, this man has not only, done it in the rap game. He's broke the barriers of Hollywood, made content that's palatable for black and white people. So I mean, he's done it. You know what I mean? He's absolutely done it, and he's not only done it for himself, but he's done it for other people, other black people as well. I mean, I didn't appreciate the fact that people were coming for him. I thought it was wrong. There wasn't. Let's just look at what he said. That's it. Let's look at what he said.
Yeah.
Of course, you spoke about the contract with Black America. We've seen it before. A lot of people have had black agendas and contracts with Black America on things that black people should put on the forefront and speak to our politicians about. A lot of them.
Right.
He's saying, look, we can't just look at this as a partisan issue. This is a bipartisan issue. And what are we going to do if this man, God forbid, if this man gets back in office? What are we going to do?
Just take our ball and go home?
Yeah, not talk to him and or not address him. Not address him. I don't know what went on in the room. I don't know when he sat down, because he didn't sit down with Donald Trump.
With Trump, no.
He says that repeatedly. He sat down with his representatives.
Sure.
He didn't sit down with him.
So, Tandra, I don't know if you both know her, but she is definitely my sister in social justice, Tandra Burkett. She says that a lot of activists and Black academics felt insulted by Ice Cube because he did not include them or consult them when he came up with his plan. And isn't that always what bottlenecks any kind of planning that we do?
And that's false. That's false. There were Black academics that
just not them.
It's not them, right?
Just not them.
He actually stated to Roland Martin that he'd been talking about this for months. He opened it up. He asked people. He invited people, and those who came and sat down with him had helped him. He didn't draft it himself. He didn't sit down and write this himself. He actually invited people out to participate in it,
including economists. I understand,
including economists. I mean, he ran the gambit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not false. That's not true.
That's always the case, because even when Barack Obama was running for president, and a lot of Black activists, we talk about Cornel West or Tavis Smiley, were critical of him because they weren't part of whatever he was trying to do. And so you always get that anytime you are outside of the box, as we say, or you're taking your own path, people criticize you. They always say you have to get in line. I mean, even coming up in ministry, you had that where a young preacher with aspiration to pastor or to preach, you were always told to get in line and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I think when it comes to activism, it's important that you carve your own lane, and it's important that you become active and you challenge the status quo, even the status quo of what we establish as the path, right? So even what you do, Pastor Jenkins, like with this forum, it's needed. We need the forum. We need the space. We need to challenge some things. Hearing what Yoram is saying about Ice Cube, we need an alternate perspective. Let's not just let's have an alternate perspective. Let's get clarity. Let's make sure right. Let's clear the air. That he did have intellectuals or those a part of his developing the agenda. So let's clear the air with that. There is more information that needs to be shared. There's a different perspective that needs to be had, and you need the space to kind of do that. So when it comes to Ice Cube, again, I don't want to be critical.
Mm-hmm.
I said I want the intention, the motivation. Could things be done a little bit differently? Could we vet some things? Could we advise them? Sure, but no, I'm not canceling that, brother. Because like Yoram said, this guy's got 30 years. I got Ice Cube in my
your playlist, right?
My playlist, man. I still sing that stuff. So I'm saying, like, he's done enough to be relevant.
Absolutely.
have a voice, and we should give him the benefit of the doubt. And I'd like to see us in our community, hey man, give us the benefit of the doubt.
And we don't. It's so infuriating because I'm telling you, I mean, I guess the best example is just, retail. We go to Macy's, whatever they slap a price on, we have to have it. But then a black retailer says, here's my price. It's probably $10 more because I don't have a huge machine working for me. Please buy my product. Well, is it the same quality? Yes, I handmade it. I'm only charging you $10 more,
Yeah.
and we have a different standard of operations when it comes to one another. Now, Tandra's asking, Minister Rodriguez, do you know any of the experts that he did? Did he drop any names?
He did.
He did.
I mean, you can go online. You could Google Roland Martin live, and you could look at the Ice Cube interview with Roland Martin. He said it. I had this out here for months. I talked about this for months, and he talked about some of the people that he did. And but my response to the sister, respectfully, why doubt it? Why? I mean, what does he?
No.
Yeah. Why doubt it? I mean,
okay. So she wasn't doubting him really. She was just saying she asked because no one stood with him that he consulted. And that's a good point too. People put you out there and you look around, they're not there to stand with you. Even though I think Ice Cube's skin is tough enough, though I feel like all of the interviews he's been doing and all of the flack that he's taking has taken its toll on him. I notice it from just seeing snippets.
He didn't expect it.
Yeah.
Ice Cube is beloved in our community. He's always been. He's been much.
He's a keeper.
I mean, we love barbershop. We love barbershop, and we love barbershop 1, and we love barbershop 2. No matter how it wasn't as good as 1, but we love. Are we there yet?
Friday, come on.
Friday, right? Friday.
Look, y'all doing the nice stuff. Y'all also know we love NWA.
Right.
We loved it. So and he has. I'm glad you said that. He has been in this game for 30 years, and I hate that sense too that people gotta wait. People have to wait. When we stood out in 2013, Pastor Davis, there were churches who had been up here in this community doing church for years.
Yeah.
And I was reticent. I was a little reserved to do anything step out because I felt like I needed to wait for them.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is, when you feel that God is telling you to do, you just got to do. Absolutely. Nobody may not be with you, but we had a great turnout. And that was because the community have been waiting for anybody to come and do something. And I think you make a really relevant point when you say an activist just has to act.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who's with him or her, just act. Because sometimes you will find yourself by yourself and alone. But the most famous picture from Ferguson, I believe, is when the sister is standing in front of the cops and they have their the AKs. You know that picture. It's all over the internet. It's like the most famous picture. She's all alone. But we know, and we're still talking about it all these years later, because she dared to stand in the face of her enemies and would not be moved. They did not move on her. She stood there. And that picture, I can't get out of my head. We wanted to bring Diddy in. Let me just say this a little bit, because I've sort of let you all talk about Ice Cube. Look, it's timing. That's the only criticism. The only criticism I have for him is the timing. But this was released, and I was saying this to Minister Rodriguez. My sister, my youngest sister, when she first saw it, she sent me the clip. The link. I read the contract. I'm like, this is not bad, but I've seen this before. These things are not bad. But sometimes it's about the messenger, right? Even though I've seen it, it could be the messenger, and perhaps now he's the messenger. And one thing that I think people are missing about what he said you have to go to the one who has the power, which is why he offered it to both campaigns,
Right.
And y'all know this person who's currently sitting in that seat,
Yeah.
he doesn't have an original idea in his body, you know, and so he's always looking for something that will make him look good, because that insulting platinum plan had nothing. It was just the bones. It was just nothing. And he stole that. They stole that, you know.
Yeah.
So for Ice Cube's plan to be able to contract to be able to be included in some kind of way in what he says he will do, okay, you know, but I think we can't miss the point that you have to be willing to sit with power, whoever has the power, even if it's a Mitch McConnell on the Senate side, and of course a Nancy Pelosi on the House side. We can't just say forget Mitch McConnell. Ugh. But we want to, and that's the problem. We act on emotions, and that's why we don't really get a whole lot. A whole lot is lost in our community because we want to be loyal to a party.
Mm-hmm.
But if we really are critical, help in a healthy way of that party, we would begin to ask those questions. And I am never going to support a Donald Trump, but what are you all doing? Come on, help us, help the community out a little bit more, because we are faithful to the Democratic Party. And I don't even think that was his question. That was not Ice Cube's question at all. He's trying to help the whole community, but the community took it like that. Go on.
Yeah, he doesn't. His point of view was, I don't care who's in the White House. That's not my issue.
Right.
We have to look. Let me tell you this. Corporations, right? Corporations have social responsibility departments, and in these social responsibility departments, they have lobbyists who send money to the Democratic Party and send money to the Republican Party to get their agendas, whatever it is that they're trying to push.
Yep.
They don't care who's in the office. They have an agenda. They have a something that they want to get passed. They're gonna give it to either the Democrat or the Republican Party. So why can't we be as savvy as that? Why can't we be as savvy as that? We have an agenda. We have an agenda. We want it passed. We don't care who's in office. We're gonna talk to the Democrats. We're gonna talk to the Republicans. It doesn't matter what party line you side on, because
Right.
I don't think because I'm not speaking for him, but I don't think that he doesn't understand that, you know, Donald Trump is a racist, or that Donald Trump is toxic, or that I don't think he doesn't recognize that. I think what he does recognize is that we got to do something. And at a point in time, when you get to a point where, you know, nothing is being done and somebody has to do something, he's feeling the frustration that we all feeling. Yeah. And he's saying he said it. He said, I have the means, I have the wherewithal, so I'm gonna do it. Now,
Right.
And like let's say when you guys started your churches, right? And you know, it was, you know, ready or not, here I come. You know, you make mistakes along the way, you get guidance, you know, you ask questions, you go back, you rewrite the plan. That's so. I mean, he could rewrite the plan. There's holes in the plan. Roland Martin pointed out that the Congressional Black Caucus had a plan, and it had certain things. And Ice Cube didn't say, F their plan. He said, that's good. I'm glad they got a plan. I'm glad they have a plan. Anybody could get involved in the plan. I'm welcoming. He wasn't saying, I'm the man, you have to follow me. He didn't take that approach. He didn't take that tone. He said, I'm welcoming anybody that's willing to do something, and I will work with anyone. He even admitted. I mean, he said, I will work with Black Lives Matter. And it was almost like a bait that, you know, to say, I'm not working with Black Lives. I wouldn't work with them. No, he said, I will work with anybody for Black people. If you for Black people, and what he's talking about, he's like, look, I'm tired of everybody muddying the waters. I'm tired of we gotta hitch our star to this one's wagon.
Right.
This one's gotta come in, and that one's got to come in. We got to be a part of this and we got to be a part of that. He's saying, look, Black people have to have a Black agenda, and we have to deal with what needs to be dealt with in the Black community. The issues that are germane to Black people, we have to deal with that. Because even now, look, my last name is Rodriguez. My father's Puerto Rican. But I also have been made aware of the racism that comes out of the Latino community as well. And I mean, this is a tough topic. This is a tough topic. This is a hard topic, but this is a topic that we have to address. And we are seeing in the media and we are seeing in the data that there are a lot of Latinos that are supporting Donald Trump. That's just point blank period. That's just what it is. Yeah. And so now we have to think about what Latinos are we going to align ourselves with, knowing that they're supporting this racist. They're supporting this racist. So I'm not mad, and we shouldn't be mad at Ice Cube for stating it how it is. Look, Black people need a Black agenda, and Black people need to start thinking about Black people and what Black people need.
Amen. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. Can we go a few more minutes? We're already at the 1 hour. Can we go a few more minutes? Okay. Sure. I love that, because, and I also look, I for my Latino friends who are offended by Goya guy, the president of Goya going up there with Trump, I stand in solidarity with them. But then on the flip side, I saw how a huge group of Latinos that said, we're not going to boycott Goya. We don't do that. I mean, it was a large contingency of Latinos, and we're not. Goya has brought so many jobs to our community. They make sure we have this, we do that, blah blah blah, blah blah blah. So they went down the list of things like we're doing tonight, talking about how Ice Cube, through his music, has been an activist for at least 30 years, and now that he decides to put something pen to paper that will help the entire Black community, he's not only thinking about, and I don't think he was ever selfish in this way necessarily, about what his family can gain, but he's thinking about the entire Black community. And all we can do is say, and I did have the criticism of the timing now, and that's where he wasn't politically savvy enough to understand the impact of this being released 3 weeks before the election, because there's so many. Just so happen we're informed voters, and we wouldn't switch our vote to a Donald Trump because he's considering Ice Cube's contract with Black America. We're smarter than that. But for those who are not, that's why it's a danger for an Ice Cube to come out 3 weeks before an election, a major election, and say, oh, I'm going to work with the Trump administration, when we know he's antithetical to our very breath. That's my criticism of him, but not of his effort. And I think, like Tandra said, she said, I respect Q, I respect Diddy. Pastor Davis, you might want to pick up on the Diddy part, because they open up the conversation to the masses and cause more people to talk about these issues. I just want to see us look through the contract. Brothers, maybe we can do this at another date. Just go through it and just talk about the contract. And then that'll be a real discussion, because after the 3rd, whatever comes, people may have more ears to hear. And I think, Pastor Davis, when Diddy talks about starting a party for Black people, well, I'm not against that either. I have a whole lot of radical views that most so-called Christians don't agree with. I feel like we need to be looking at ourselves anyway, and building us up anyway. Us. And I do agree with Malcolm X. Look, y'all can't be a part of this. But if there's some commerce that has to be exchanged, we will take your money in commerce. Nehemiah did that much. He just didn't allow it on the Sabbath day. So talk about the Diddy angle for us, Pastor Davis.
Well, I mean, Diddy was another one that received criticism, and I understand the point that he's making about creating another party for Black folks. I think that's something that we need to listen. We have to put everything on the table. I think at some point we have to consider all angles, and I think we are so loyal to the Democratic Party, to a fault, And I don't have a problem again with Ice Cube sitting at the table with Trump. I think the timing is wrong. I think even there's some things that Diddy needs some guidance on, but I think again, the intent, the motivation, some of the messaging is something that we all need to consider and stop being condescending and shutting people down, and that we need to become more nationalistic. I'm talking about black nationalism, where it's not loyalty to a particular party, it's loyalty to Black people.
Thank you.
It's like we're just not doing it. So what I've seen from these people, they love Black people. And they want to initiate some things because they don't trust they don't trust Biden and they don't trust Trump.
Right.
We should feel the same way, right? Just because Biden has Kamala Harris doesn't mean that this is the best thing for us. And I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying, or don't vote for that. I'm just saying that is not the be all end all. That's not going to fix all our problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we really need to be agenda driven and driven by what's in our best interest, regardless of who's in office. And we need to be able to make people understand you cannot take our vote for granted, and we will develop a different political ideology or a different party or whatever we need to do to push that agenda forward. But don't just expect us to vote a particular way of, at 90-something% just because we've done that historically. No, we're becoming more critical in our thinking. And I think what Ice Cube is doing and Diddy is making people understand Black folk are tired.
Yes. And
they're starting to veer in a different direction. And I'm all for that. I don't have a problem with that.
I agree. I went out and voted today. And if I had to stand for longer than I did, I would have done it, because I do this because of the elders, right? Not the ancestors, but the elders, right? Because they're basically still living, and they fought and they were killed and they were hosed. My hero in the movement, Fannie Lou Hamer, had permanent kidney damage as a result of just trying to vote. So I would have stood, but it was not about the candidates. It was about exercising this vote. And also, for me, the state senator was on there. The state assemblyman was on there. We have 3 judgeships in the Bronx, or in probably the other areas too. These are important positions for us to pay attention to. And so I did it with glee, because I understand that we also have to put pressure on our local elected officials as well. So it can't always be with an eye to Washington, D.C., not even for and I think Congress was on there too. Jamal Bowman had a competitor, and he got over the huge hurdle of Elliot Engel. And so I'm prayerful that he will also prevail against his Republican challenger, which more than likely he will. But so we have to learn how to bring these ideas from small little groups like this, where we have people who are talking back to us in the comments, right? Taking their great ideas, putting our great ideas together, and getting an audience with these people. Sometimes it's very difficult, but it's something that we have to become like that little nagging fly that just won't go away in the summer, just flying around your head to them until they accept a meeting with us, because our agenda has to become what is their agenda. It can no longer be what you want to do. It's just like when we start a church, right? You had a mission, I have a mission and a vision for it. But as you said, Minister Rodriguez, over time, we've made mistakes, and we've had to change and mold those missions and visions to be more acutely aligned with the way the Lord is revealing himself to us in the people who we serve. So an inflexibility, even from politicians, can no longer be tolerated. And I think it starts with small groups like this. Everyone is not going to be as loud as I am with mine. I mean, I might need some refinement. I don't know. But I do know that it cannot be in there glorifying people that you're going to get where you're going to ask them to do better. If
Right.
we want them to do better, we can't just over glorify them, because they'll sit back and say, well, what's wrong with what I'm doing?
Right.
Yeah.
So it's to speak to this point, right? We watched the last debate, right?
Yeah.
Another debacle, right? Just
Yes.
ridiculous.
Yes.
But
Hmm.
okay, so the one point that I'm going to highlight that Donald Trump made, he asked Joe Biden, tens of thousands of black males were shipped off to prison, tens of thousands. Tens of thousands because of this crime bill. You are responsible for tens of thousands of black males. Now, we cannot just push that to the side.
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm.
it's coming from the wrong person, right? We know
Right.
that he has it's not heartfelt, or he really cares about these tens of thousands of black males that have populated the prison industrial complex because of this crime bill.
Right.
It is something. I mean, we know that we got to get this man out of office, but it is something that we have to address.
Address.
The Democratic Party.
Yeah.
The Democratic Party is responsible for the authorship of the crime bill and the damage that it has done in our communities.
Yeah.
And we got to hold them accountable for it. Now, thankfully, I mean, Biden gets some kudos because me and Pastor Davis, we were texting each other back and forth when the debate was going on. He said, "Look, he did apologize. He did admit that it was a mistake, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But this is where the symbolism and the pageantry and all that kind of stuff has been used to disarm black people. We've seen, okay, look, we've seen Bill Clinton do it. He was in East Africa apologizing for the transatlantic slave trade in East Africa. This is how out of touch this man was. And we were calling this man the first black president. We were affectionately calling this man the first black president. He couldn't even understand the geographical location that he was in, apologizing for slavery that took place in West Africa. So I mean, these are the things that we have to address. And also, when we look at somebody like Ice Cube, and we look at the pushback that he received from it, him as a black man, just to go into blame black men, there is, and it's got to be said, there is a movement of people that are trying to remove the black man from the movement, taking him out of the forefront of the movement. And I'm going to say this too. It's not the black man. It is the heterosexual
Black man. Oh yeah.
I don't know all the terms.
No, you're right.
But I know that the heterosexual black man is being viewed in some circles as toxic, as privileged,
Yes.
as the person that should take responsibility for all that wrongs the black community. And this is a devilish design that's being taken place. To remove the black man from the movement, to separate it, to now look at the black family as just or just look at the black movement as just the black woman and the black child, to throw out this whole to start to cause this divisiveness by saying that we got to speak out for Breonna Taylor. Don't forget our sister Breonna Taylor. This is Ice Cube doing what he did is what black men have always did. We always stepped up for our community. We always was ready to take the bullet. We was always ready to take the hit. And so that's why I'm not mad for him. So I'm looking at it from a larger perspective. I'm taking it out of the focus on Ice Cube, and I'm looking at it as what black men have always done. And I'm tired of hearing about black, this terminology that's just idiotic, that black men are to the black community what white men are. The white men have been to black people. This terminology, it was an article that was written in the Roots. I don't even remember the guy's name. And talking about black male privilege and all of this kind of stuff like that. And really, the data doesn't show it. I mean, we could talk about that at another time. I would love to bring out the data. Black men are not privileged. Black men are not privileged. It's just not. And I would love to flesh that out at another time. But and this is what I'm talking about. This is a way of telling black men, yo, sit down and shut up. Yeah. That's what this is about Ice Cube. He need to go sit down and he need to shut up. And this is what is being happened. This is what's happening to black men. And you see in these movements is not highly publicized. You've seen black militia groups, black men armed to the teeth, ready to go out there and protect people who are marching. But you have certain people who have certain agendas. You see in the media, you do not see black men leading these marches or even in a part of the leadership of these marches. And there is a group of people who want to silence the black male voice in this movement, who want to silence it. Yeah. And if we allow that, that would be the detriment. That would be to the detriment of the black community, to the detriment of it.
I'm glad you brought that in, because if we go back to Ferguson, it's probably more organized after Trayvon Martin's murder, but Black Lives Matter was a response to the harm done to black men. Mm-hmm. And so you come all these years later, 6-7 years later, and Alicia Garza is not even a part of the organized movement anymore. She has something else. And so do the other two women who co-founded the organization with her. Their whole mission statement is basically antithetical to what it began as an outcry in response to the murder and assault on black men.
I'm going to cut you off, but I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this without fear. Black men have become the cannon fodder for movements. You want your platform built up. Okay, let's march for George Floyd. And then once you get your recognition, once your name is out there, now it's the black man and what's going on with the black man is no longer on the agenda. So I'm using the black man as a springboard to launch your own thing. This is what's happening, and this is what's going on. And
it is.
So when what happened with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, it wasn't an either or for black men. It's never been an either or for black men. It's what's happening because we know that the George Floyds of the world, they got mamas, they got sisters, they got daughters, they got wives.
Yep.
So we never made it just about black men. We know that removing a black man from the community is going to impact the whole entire community. So there was never this division of let's make it only about George Floyd. Let's make it only about and we've
never forgotten Breonna Taylor's name.
Yeah, we never forgot about Breonna Taylor. We never forgot about Sandra Bland. We never forgot about them.
Never forgot.
When we talk about police brutality. We talking about police brutality in the black community. Look, let's be real about this. You can go all the way back to the bus boycott in Selma, where Rosa Parks wasn't the first black woman that they did that to. This was a response to protecting black women and the treatment of black women in our community. This is what the response. And so what I'm pointing out is that with Ice Cube and what he did in the response is a response that has been typical of black men. We've always stood up, we've always stood out, and we've always been willing to protect our community. Point blank, period.
Okay, so let me go back to a comment made by Neff, another sister in the struggle here.
That's
She,
my sister. We
oh,
Yeah,
okay,
all the way back to
that's
the
my sister also.
days.
okay. So it's me, Neff, and Tandra. Neff is trying to come up with a cute name for us. You need to work on that, girl, work on that. But this is what she said, and she's absolutely correct. She says, I don't think Black men are privileged. However, they can, and they actually, I'm going to add the word do, benefit from the male chauvinistic society. And let me just share this.
You got to
Off the
come
back
with
of my
that.
book.
You
Hold
gotta
on, hold
know.
on. I'm about to give you
Come with
some.
that.
Well, that's what Tandra's asking you to come with some data. But hold on, let me give you the back cover matter from my book. I say, gosh, Lord, let me get my glasses, my spectacles. Oh, these 50 plus eyes don't do what they used to do. Hold on a minute. Hold on. Okay. After many years of serving and pleasing others, and many years, get this, of being under the control of toxic patriarchy. That happens. And I'm black through and through. So that didn't come from white men. That has come from Black men, primarily in the church, though. So I explained there. But it is true, Minister Rodriguez. Black women have, and you sort of spoke to Pastor Davis. You spoke to this wait your turn ism that is within the church, is live and well, and many times, um, as a result, and I'm not just saying the women, but Black men and women. I've seen Black men have to carry suitcases, or what do you call them, attaché cases, for
I did.
pastors.
Yeah.
You did it, right?
Yeah.
While you have to wait. And then sisters who wait for literal decades to be ordained. So it is a system that harms us, but it is also different from what you're talking about. Black men, heterosexual men, are being edged out of the conversation. Do you remember the largest protest over the summer was after, I believe, the trans sister was killed. But the largest protest during the whole George Floyd protest over the summer was in Brooklyn, at not having to do with the murder of George Floyd, but of the murder of a transgender woman, Black woman. So you're right. You're right. Black men, heterosexual men, are being sort of marginalized in the very movement that began to support and to respond to their murders. Tandra is asking, she says, interesting point regarding Black men and the movement. Can you please share some data to support this? I would like to research this further. Do you have anything to share tonight, or should we just go on and schedule? I know we're supposed to do next Wednesday, Pastor.
Let's reschedule this. But I'm gonna ask this question in terms of the Black clergy, right? I'm gonna ask you this question. The pews, right?
Yeah.
Pews itself. I mean, because when we talk about this, we know that 80% of the church is what?
Oh yeah. Oh,
Black.
female, Black
Right.
women. Yep.
Right. So I mean to say that, behind the scenes, okay, pastors are, there's a system of putting people in place, and we know that Black women have not been given the opportunity to be pastors, to be deacons, this kind of thing. So my question is, when this sisters speak out against this, I mean, from the pews. Because what I'm saying is that in order for this dynamic to take place, right? For this, I mean,
have the cooperation of the women.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. No, I'm talking about that in the book.
They're supporting the church. 80%.
Oh yeah.
They're the ones who are supporting the church and supporting the pastor, because of this theological view or perspective was supported by them. It's something that they've been taught. It's been traditionally taught to them, and they've supported it. Oh, so it's not like it was not supported by Black women at all. I mean,
you're absolutely correct. Yeah. You're absolutely correct. But that goes back to Neff's statement about but Black men have benefited from the male chauvinistic society. I talk about that in the book. I talk about the so-called gatekeepers, the women in the church, because they are steering the ship. They are advising the pastor. But make no mistake, you and I, we all know that ultimately the pastor is the decision maker. The deacons board, the trustees board, they have their role, but ultimately, and the church, the pews have hired that pastor to make these tough decisions. But you're absolutely right. Now I talk about the gatekeepers, and the gatekeepers, I'm not talking about the men, it's the women. So we do each other harm. We do each other harm. But if we want to just keep the discussion where you had it, and I totally agree with you, I'm not disagreeing with you at all. Black heterosexual men are being marginalized out of the very movement that was established to protect them.
I'm gonna say this last point about this, and I want because I definitely want to hash this out. We also have to look at our model of church and where we get that model from.
That's a good important point.
It's a Eurocentric. It's a Eurocentric. It's a Eurocentric model. When and we developed the church out of that model. So look,
well, let me jump in here real quick. So everything you said about the model of how we do church is Eurocentric, and the model by which we do a lot of things is Eurocentric. Absolutely. And the reason why we are looking at Black men the way we're looking at them, because that's grounded and rooted in a Eurocentric view of Black men, where he is aggressive, he is overly sexualized, he's a terror, he's violent, and things of that nature. So the reason why Black men have issues in our community when it comes to violence and when it comes to violence against women, right, is because that's an effect of white supremacy. So at Native American men are very violent to Native American women, right? There's a lot of abuse from Native American men to Native American women, and a lot of misogyny within their community, right? Are Native American men inherently misogynistic, or is it a result of white supremacy? There are elements of misogyny within our community, right? That when Black women are abused at a disproportionate rate, that shouldn't happen, and Black women should feel protected, right? There are some issues, some legitimate issues with that, but what I'm arguing is that the issues that we have, again, are grounded in white supremacy. We need to deal with that. That is the problem. But what happens within the Black community is we look at each other and we keep pointing the finger at each other. Well, you're toxic, or you're this, or you're that. No, we are the victims.
Yeah.
Of supremacy, and we need to become more nationalistic and become more nation building within our own framework.
Yeah.
The part that and that's where Ice Cube, I think, as we talk about him as the centerpiece of this conversation, that's what he's trying to get us to this conversation. We need to move in that direction, right?
Yeah.
And begin to remove the shackles of this white supremacy, because it's messing us up.
It has messed us up in a really big way. And I appreciate you saying that. Robin, hi, Robin. I know she's one of your friends, guys. She said I think there are more women in ministry now than ever before. And I just wrote her back to say, yes, it's absolutely true. We're the ones who are busting out the seminary classrooms, even when I went umpteen years ago. But here's the thing. Once we are in ministry, we are either given, and it just depends on the structure of the denomination. We're given a license as an evangelist, and even that has a connotation of not being as important, right? And then you're an evangelist for a very long time, or you're a licentiate. In the Baptist tradition, a licentiate is licensed only to that local church. So she or he has to get permission, express permission from his or her pastor whenever they want to go out to preach, or whenever they're invited to preach. So you're not able to move, in accordance to the call that you believe you have on your, that God has put on your life. She said, no, I was actually just scrolling and I heard the talk. Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad you're here. But I hope you heard my response. So there may be more of us. And I said this a few weeks ago on one of my shows. when I was referring to Sojourner Truth and her famous speech, "Ain't I a Woman?"
Yeah.
I don't think she's only talking to the white men. I think
No.
she was also talking to the white women.
Women, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, ain't I a woman too?
Yeah.
Why do I have to go through these changes to do exactly what you all are doing? And so we are often made to be less than for a long old time, even being having men who are less qualified or have less time in ministry than us. And so that's a pervasive thing. But I think Pastor Davis actually touched on it,
Right.
because I've looked at this book. This book is it came out last year. I wrote it in 2018. Lord, if I could redo the back cover, because I don't feel that way. Because what I've noticed is the more and more Black men are attacked, I don't want to be associated with feeling like or having people think that I've been so subjugated to patriarchy when I embrace the patriarchy that's in the Bible. You understand what I'm saying? So, and then I've been pastoring for 15 years. So I was doing a historical perspective when I wrote the book, but if I could have my cover redone, I would take that out because I'm not affected by that. Because my whole purview has changed more to what Pastor Davis is talking about, nation building. And
Yes.
so you can't build a Black nation when the sisters and the brothers can't get on the same page. You know, we want you all to lead. My sisters and I were talking, Tandra Neff and I were talking on Sunday. We get tired of always having to lead. You know, we are making space for you to come on and do your thing. We're happy to step back. We really are. But our reality has not allowed us to do that. And that's something that in this nation building movement that you're talking about,
Yeah.
Pastor, we have to actually talk about these things.
Yeah. Let me just say this real quick, because it's even coming up in ministry, young Black men are relegated to the back. You
Yeah.
know, like, to be a young preacher in a Black church, man, the stuff that we had to do, right? Like you cleaning the church, like, you know, you're carrying your pastor's bag, you're carrying his robe, you're going out with him, you're driving him, you're chauffeuring him, you're doing everything in a servitude mode for him, right? A lot of Black men have to wait a long time to do that. And again, it's the structure that Yoram was talking about. That where do we get that from? And sometimes even in the Black church, sometimes the reason why we love titles and love position, because it's the only place where you can actually historically Black men could have things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And perhaps we overemphasize some of these things. So again, these things we need to reconsider them, take a second look at them, reevaluate them. And I think we're doing that. So like, even when I founded our church, Harvest, right? My wife is a pastor, and we did it with that purpose, to say she has a space, or women have a space to effectively stay within their call, right? And to change again the paradigm. We talk about paradigm shift. As in the seminary, we say that a lot. Paradigm shift. We have to do those things, right? And again, it's people like yourself and us bold enough to have these conversations, to push the envelope. But again, that type of conversation has to be grounded in Black nationalism, where we're trying to create something in a space for us where our community can grow for men and women.
Right.
Right.
And also, to also understand that these dynamics that happen in our communities, where you have situations like that within the church, or when you have situations with domestic violence, right? These issues, we cannot just throw out blanket statements and just say they're privileged or they're a part of this. I don't know, to say that Black males are privileged in the same ways that white males are privileged. It's almost saying that Black men are in concert with. To really think about that. I know of no organization or no cabal of Black men that are in a concerted effort to subjugate Black women and Black children. I know of none. I know of none. I know of none. Like,
I'm not sure that that's what she meant. I think she's saying that the structures that exist, that are rooted in patriarchy, or
not.
what was the word she
Well,
used?
I understand. I understand what she's saying. I understand what she's saying. The structures, but these structures have been
Chauvinism.
developed. These structures have been developed out of a white mindset.
Oh yeah,
So these,
yeah.
so these things will happen. These
Mhm.
things will happen. So what we got to do is we got to dig deeper to find out where the origin of
Yeah.
these things, and then we can begin to repair and heal and bring back together, because these issues are actually polarizing us, and
Absolutely.
it's really hurting them. It's really hurting the movement. I mean, because we could go back and forth for days, right? We can go back and forth for days to talk about where black women are being abused, and and being subjugated, and where black men are being abused, and we can go back and forth for days, right? But we have to bring it together, and we have to be able to address each other in love.
Yes.
Something that repairs the rift that we have, because there's definitely contentions.
But yeah, I'm convinced, and let me say this: I'm convinced black men love black women, and I'm convinced black women love.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
You'll never get me to think any other way. Now,
Right.
Frank married one. I married.
Yeah, man.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think we need to understand that we do love each other, right?
Mm.
Our community, and that we are out here, and people. Sometimes we talk about protecting black women, and I understand a lot of that. Malcolm said that she's the least protected and he's, to a large extent, he's right, and I think we can all. I would never mute the voice of a black woman. Don't want to ever police her tone. I think it's important for black men to listen.
Absolutely.
Black woman speaks about these things that we're talking about. I don't get offended by some of these things. You want to listen and create the space where we can address these things. But I do think that, black men still marry black women. Black men love their black children. And I think sometimes we allow narratives to control how we see these things.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I really don't like that. We need to stop with these narratives and stop with these bullet points that we tend to hold on to. It really is not one size fits all, right? There's nuance, and sometimes we forget that. So we make, as Yoram said, blanket statements, and they're offensive.
Yeah. Yeah. And we hurt each other, right? We hurt each other. Yeah.
Right.
Let me catch y'all up on. So look. I think we're about to start the Black Nation unity camp right up in here. But I do think we need to have this discussion. Tandra had said while we were meeting that it's time for us to heal. And Robin is funny because she's saying, I see a lot of brothers with white women. Yeah, girl, look, we can have that whole discussion too, because there's a reason. Like going back, I don't know if you were here when I first started talking about Peggy Noonan putting her mouth on Kamala Harris. There's a charisma, there's a stilo, there is a cadence with which black women talk that she can't begin to understand. And so when you lack understanding, you really need to say nothing. But one thing I would say about many of the brothers who do find themselves with white women, it is something I hope my son never does. I think there are enough beautiful black women from whom he can choose, because he'll never be seen as equal to her, as we've seen over and over again. But a lot of white black men, that if you just listen to some of them who do end up with white women, it's like she don't have all this mouth. What the heck? We've had to use our mouth not as a deliberate weapon against black men, but to get the things that need to get done. And this is the way we operate. So if you want some docile woman and you believe that you find it in her, I'm not going to even deal with them. These brothers right here that's talking about they love black women, and us sisters here who talk about we love black men, we can start here. And I'm going to let them stay over there, because they're operating in a different sphere than I am altogether. And that's on them. I don't even want to talk about them no more, but you're right, girl. There are a lot, there are a lot. You got 5 sons. Look, let's put them in this group that we trying to put together for us all to heal. And I bet some of these little girls will come in this group too. No, I'm just messing with you, but there really is a lot of work that we need to do. So look, this is what we're gonna do. Pastor Davis, me, you, Pastor Andre, Pastor Frank, we all supposed to be on here next Wednesday. Am I right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Were we going to do Tuesday and Wednesday? I don't want to talk about the election because I do believe that, Tandra, we need to talk about some of these statistics that Minister Rodriguez is talking about. I really want us to go in and dissect the whole contract with Black America. Can we each communicate over the next week and take a part of it so we can each present from it and do that? I'm not really interested in the election because the West Coast people will not have even finished voting by the time we're on here. We might have to do another hour and a half to get it all in, and then to start. You know what? I really love this whole nation building thing that you're talking about, Pastor Davis. I think we need to start. Juanita started out talking about what's the plan. This is a plan. Our first modus operandi is to dissect Ice Cube's contract with Black America because most people haven't even looked at it. They just went in on him. Right. They haven't even looked at it. We're better than that, right? Let's criticize with reason, not with just, he's playing with the bad kids. We know Trump is the bad kid. but let's see what he has to offer in it. And what do we bring to the contract with Black America that will make it stronger for us all? I love this discussion. We've had a great time. Oh, Lady Veronica's here. Let's see what she's saying. She says for decades, the Black men have been marginalized in home so that the continuance of demise, so that adds, I guess, to the continuance of the demise of the Black family. Girl, why are you in my whole dissertation? Right. Because I have a whole piece on the demise of the she's on point. She's absolutely right. Marginalized from the home for the continuance of the demise of the Black family. And so you got a person like Lady Veronica, you got Neff, you got Robin, you got Tandra, you got all the sisters on here, you got me. And I've said this over the summer, Pastor Davis, I want to step back. I want the brothers to move up. And it's not because I want to step back and be quiet, shut up and be quiet, but I affirm you. I affirm your leadership. And we need to stop listening in the ethers to feminists whose agenda is not for Black women. That is not Black women, but we listen and we bring that into the house, Lady Veronica, and start telling our husbands, you this, you that, or you're not. Go
ahead, Pastor.
No, I'm sorry. I would just say, Yoram and I, we've historically listened to John Henry Clark, who was the late great Black historian, right? And when you listen to his lectures and read his books, one of the things that he points out really is that in African culture or African, that the Black woman had a this high level place within the community, right? And for me, I don't think it's an either or, and that's one of the points that Yoram makes. It's not either or. I think, and I've always said to you, Pastor Jenkins, that when you're out at the forefront, I support that. I get behind that, right? And I have problem with that. And I said to you that we need your leadership and we need your voice in this time, right? And I think sometimes we don't necessarily need you to, and just for the sake of this conversation, to move to the side. We need to move with you. And I think that's the thing. We get into the space where we think, well, the Black man has to lead. No, she has to lead. No, we both need to lead, right?
Yes.
There's a place for your voice, right? Whether and the Fannie Lou Hamers of the world and the people of cut from that cloth, right? That we need those people, and we've always had it historically. But for Black folk, we always feel the need to choose between, I don't know, T and W.E.B. Du Bois, and John Henry Clark says, no, we need both.
You need both.
You need Malcolm. You need these varying points of view that are not necessarily opposed to each other, right?
Right.
It's just a more holistic view. And so to me, I don't get into these debates about, patriarchy or being led by a woman or whatever. Listen, a woman is and that's the point John Henry Clark made, that in our culture, if we get back to the roots of our culture, we have no problem with this kind of stuff. Historically, we don't have any kind of problem with this. This is our history, right?
Yeah.
I think we need to get back to that. It's not to say that African history is perfect and we come from a utopia. I'm just saying there's a way that Black folks have done things throughout history that is different from a Eurocentric way of doing things.
Absolutely.
And break free from that.
To add to both of your points, I mean, we hear it out in the ether, right? This is deliberate. It's not just whispers in the wind. This was a white feminist liberal movement that helped bring Black women into the fold to help their agenda along. And even in the academia, you have people espousing these thoughts and these ideas of black male hegemony and and privilege and stuff like that, so that they can get tenured, so that they can get funding, so this doesn't come from nowhere. It does come from someplace, and then so it happens in academia. These things get talked about, and then it trickles down and it makes its way into our homes. Right? I mean, and even speaking to Pastor Davis's point about going back and looking at traditional models in Africa. No, they're not perfect. I mean, there is historical commentary about, let's say, the Ashanti, right? When the men went out to war, the Ashanti would adorn them with song, and in their songs they would tell them, if you don't go do what you got to go do, to paraphrase, you can't come home. You cannot come home. So this is just to add to the perspective that we have to even look at our traditional African history, and delve into that and see where the role of the relationship between black men and Black women have taken place. We can use it as a model. We can use it as a model for us today. Like Pastor Davis, not to say that it wasn't perfect, not to say that they have their own male and female relationships in Africa now that's been damaged, but we also have to look at what was the cause of this damage, right? What was the cause of this damage, so that we can be able to heal and move forward. Not Black man without the Black woman, not Black woman without the Black man, but together. How can we begin to move forward together? Because this ain't going to be one. And I know we got nuances. We got nuances within the community. So we got to talk about intersectionality. We got to talk about these things. But we have to begin to start the process of healing. So these discussions are not discussions about who is more oppressed, right? That's not what these discussions are about. No. These discussions are brought to light because we have to start the healing process. So we do have to flesh out. We do have to talk about, 45% of Black women are abused, sexually abused, and the whole nine. But also 40% of Black males have encountered these things in their lifetime as well. So there's not this issue of Black men. We don't talk about this stuff. We don't talk about Black males being sexually abused. We don't talk about domestic violence taking place that has happened to Black males. We don't talk about, because we don't think that Black men hurt. We don't think that they feel pain. I mean, and this is a larger view of Black people within itself, even in the medical profession.
Yes,
they don't believe that Black people feel pain the same way that everybody else.
They won't give you the same level of anesthesia when it comes.
And we know Serena Williams talked about this during her pregnancy. So we don't see. We've been anesthetized to the pain that Black men have been feeling. And so what we see, again, just to bring it all home, a Black man like Ice Cube is saying, look, you're gonna hear me, you're gonna hear my voice. He addressed Roland Martin. Roland Martin talked about I think beginning during the Obama administration, 8% of black males was leaving the Democratic Party, and now it's up to 13%. And Ice Cube asked a poignant question: why is that?
Right.
We got to talk about that. Why are black men leaving? Because black men have overwhelmingly supported the Democratic Party and traditionally outvoted black women. All people out traditionally, and we could get the numbers to flesh that out. But this is the support that black men have had traditionally toward the Democratic Party. Why are they leaving? Why are they leaving? Why are they looking at other issues? Why are they going out to outside of their race? We have to ask these questions. I mean, these are valid questions. These are valid points, and black men want to be heard. They want to. They want to be heard. They refuse to be marginalized. And so again, if I go to the Democratic Party and I present my platform, and you tell me, look, good stuff, but wait, this is what we've been told. Wait. So then I'm going to somebody else and say, look, I'll sit down with you. I'll talk with you. Again, he had to be savvy enough to know that could be utilized in the wrong way, or, to their advantage and to his disadvantage. But he's saying, look, if you're not listening to me, you're not hearing me, you refuse to talk to me now, I'm going to go to somebody that's going to listen to me. So I mean, so this is how you bring it to a point of, let's just talk about it within our homes and not look at it from this global scale. Let's just look at it from what's going on in our homes.
Well, look, I am just so happy you two have hung out with me for these almost 2 hours. I want to honor the comments because they're really good that I didn't get a chance to put in there. Robin said she's enjoyed the conversation. She works in the school system, and the way our boys are handled is shameful.
There's research that came out about that too.
Came
out about that.
So maybe if you have it next week, we can look at it also. But I've been working with young boys in particular since 1992, Robin, because I was a foster care child protective caseworker. And I saw how Black and Latino boys were being affected by the foster care system in a very, very different way than the young girls were. And so I started after school programming with my sister Juanita, our good friends Soné and Alicia, way back then, to try to save the Black boys, to be honest with you, because the Black boys have been shafted. So if Black boys have been shafted, so are Black men. And I do believe, I have a theory, but I will do as a part of my research the reason why is it went up from 8% to 13%. I think I have a theory as to why Black men are leaving. And it is something that we as sisters will have to face if my theory is correct. But I'm going to go and find the numbers to back that up. Veronica also said, affirmation and submission to our husband is not being laid out and being slapped around by men. And she also wrote, as a follow-up to that, submission to our men is simply understanding and respecting his leadership in the home. And I think that goes, I think it goes without saying, but most Black women, we hate to hear that word coming. Is in the Bible. We say we follow the Bible, but we do not want to deal with submission. But the brothers got to understand there's a reason for that too. It's very similar to the theory that I have about why the Black men are leaving the Democratic Party, but I will save that for next week and ask y'all to come back. Let me see. Juanita said, oh man, it's so many more comments. I just want to honor them all. Juanita said, we need not choose between, like you said, Pastor Davis, male, your viewpoint or mine. We have many points of view, and I agree with Pastor Davis. And Veronica, I'm with you, girl. She said, I am not interested in a Black man who does not lead. That's right, girl. That's right. And I'm messing around with her, but we want to see Black men lead. But I do agree with you. And I appreciate you always reaffirming what I do, Pastor Davis, because you're like, no, don't stop. Don't get in the back. Yeah. And I don't think you're saying it because you just want to see me in the front while you do nothing. I don't believe that. I think you're just affirming that God has given me a voice and a space to do what he wants me to do and do that while you're over here, while Yoram's over there, while Frank's over there, doing what he's also given you. And I appreciate that. Kenya, who's also a friend, is always here. She's appreciated the part that she has gotten to see. Robin says, so much damage has been done. How do we undo hundreds of years of dismantling of a whole Black people? But I think it starts with what Pastor Davis is saying. We've got to be, and I don't even say it's selfish, but we have to be inward looking enough to say it is time to build a Black nation. It's got to be for us. We have got to say, like Ice Cube said, look, Biden, Trump, here's an agenda. Y'all don't have one, so I'm bringing you one for my people. Here it is. Take a look. Let's see what we can work, how we can work this out. And sometimes, sadly, our Black politicians don't even have an agenda for us. Can we be real? I'm not trying to go back to the primary period. I'm talking about just in general. They don't have an agenda for us. So we have a lot of work. But if we start talking, we can move through some of this stuff.
Okay, so the Congressional Black Caucus has their own agenda, but the whole Congressional Black Caucus is Democratic. It's all Democrats. Yep. It's all Democrats. It's no one.
Oh, Tim Scott's not a part of that. I don't know.
I think out of all 20, I think it's like 20 of them or something like that. I don't think none of them are Republican at all.
And I think that something like this, we need to go to them, because they've just been able to just skate. Yeah, we've not asked them for anything.
And if you check their record, their record is atrocious. So
look, the one I was telling my daughter earlier, Barbara Lee, she is my, she's my girl. And I was like, oh Lord, I pray she was not one of those who went up there begging Reagan or Bush or whoever it was to take care of crack for us. And I was so happy to see that she was not. But for the rest of them, I've always had this criticism of them. If you cannot criticize your own, then you just need to be quiet. And I'm not talking about this stuff that they've been doing with Ice Cube. That is unfair criticism. Aside from, nobody's just said, oh, the timing. Nobody has affirmed what he actually tried to do in thinking about all of us. He doesn't even have to. He's a multimillionaire. Why does he have to think about the rest of Black people unless he loves his people?
Right.
Which is what he said. Kenya said, I said today, Black people need to learn when to stand down and focus on us. See, you know what, Kenya? I didn't like that comment because I didn't see the focus on us part. Because I didn't know what you meant. Because my mouth is big. I'm always running it, but I try. So now, yes, I understand what you're saying. We need to stand down and learn to focus on us. I can get an amen for that for you. I agree. So what Pastor Davis, Minister Rodriguez, and I are committing to do for my Tuesday non-election night show, but it's on election night, right? At 7:00. We're going to take Ice Cube's contract with Black America. We're going to decide which parts each of us are going to take. We're going to come back with an evaluation, an analysis of it, pros and cons. And we'll share that with you. And I hope that by then, many of you who've had your opinions about it will have gone and looked at it too. It's on the internet. So we'll do that. Some statistics that Tandra asked for. Minister Rodriguez, you're in the chat. You'll see exactly what you're in the post. You'll see exactly what kind of statistics she wanted to see. I forgot what it was. It was a little while ago now. And then we'll talk about that. And Pastor Davis, if you want to just start giving us some more of your ideas around this Black nation building, I have a whole lot of them. Tandra does too. I just say we need to come together as one. And but some ground rules, right? Like, we're not here to fight each other. We're here to unify with each other, meaning Black women and Black men, because that's where it's at. Okay, Robin, thank you. And come on back next week and, join the discussion like you did tonight, because your points have been very valid. Juanita says, goes back to my point. They react, not respond to our needs because we're not sure how to ask, because we're too big. There are times when we react, and then there are times when we respond. There are times when we must do both. And I think we have to be comfortable doing both when it's called for. I'm praying for
to seek counsel.
And we definitely have to seek counsel.
Even when I made my statement, I posted it online and I got the pushback. I called Pastor Davis. I said, come on, brother, I need you to be pastoral right now. Did I jump out on a limb? You know, this is what I said. This is what he said. Yeah, I saw your post. You know, and you got to get counsel. Yeah, I'm not too big to, you know, call my brother and say, come on, Pastor, you got to be pastoral right now. Break it down, explain some things to me, give me some perspective. And he did just that. And he didn't say, nah, brother, you out there on your own. No, he said, you know, I agree with you, but let me give you some more perspective that could, you know, bolster your argument and also see things from a different point of view. And this is what we have to do. We have to seek counsel as well.
Yeah, because otherwise we will run out and react, Juanita. We'll react instead of responding. And sometimes it's a response that's needed and not a reaction. But I tell everybody, and I was raised in Montgomery, Alabama, where Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks started the bus boycott. But I'm more Malcolm. I just am. I'm just more Malcolm. And it's look, I would even say I just am. Okay. I'm more Malcolm. And if I have to be either, I'm probably more Fannie Lou Hamer.
Well, he started in the Baptist church with his father. So let's
That's right. That's right. Look. Well, Jesus, I said this over the summer. Jesus sent the disciples out on 2 different occasions. One time he said, don't take a sword. The next time he said, take a sword. Look, there are times, Juanita, and everybody else, when we got to just go without anything. Then there are times we got to be ready to tear stuff up. That's who I am quite often. Yeah, Juanita, it's good sense, girl. But sometimes, look, I can't, look, I'm trying to tell you, but look, we're at 2 hours, and I thank you both so much for being here. Pastor Davis, we're going to be tired on Wednesday because we're going to be here on Tuesday, but I'm looking forward to it. Brothers, thank you so much. Be safe, watch your back, pray up, love your families, and kiss them before y'all go, because we just don't know how we're going to return.
Thank you so much for having me.
God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.